Okay, I will call this regular meeting of the Phillips Circuit Park Board District Board Directors to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Stand with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Yes, Chair Irwin,
Here.
Vice Chair Mouse,
Here.
Director Carhart,
Here.
Director O'Farrell,
Here.
Director Tamani, here, all present.
Wonderful. We have recognition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're going to postpone that because we will have someone presenting the award next month. And so it will be a more formal presentation next month.
Wonderful. Okay, next move. Congratulations.
Yes.
Wonderful. Then we will move on to audience public comment on any non-agenda items. This time where the community has the opportunity to address our board with 3 minutes on any item. It looks like I do have one public comment request form. Is there any other forms all in person? And is there anything online? No. So wonderful. Then I will give time to Ms. Smith.
I'm Carol Smith, and I'm here to request a lot line adjustment for 3 properties on Manana Way. I'm 8420 and 20 in the center, and the properties on either side of us. We're proposing a 20 feet lot line into the open space into Lot G. We're willing to pay for all the costs for the lot line adjustment process, the property, and obviously our expenses. The rough illustration gives, in the yellow, it shows 20 feet into there's basically 90 to 95 feet between our lot line and the creek. So it shows the section that we're proposing. We'd be open to less than the 20 feet, but we wanted to make the amount seem large enough to be attractive to the board to look into it and to go through the process. On another handout I have how I calculated what the fair market value per feet is right now. The reasons for our request, first and foremost, we used to look onto a farm, and now we look onto a large development. Other than that, it's, to give us a buffer between the creek, and it's going to eventually, the walkway is going to wrap around to behind our property. And so it's going to become a park-like setting, and we've already had people hanging out right behind our fence. And I guess in essence, I feel that the difference to that strip of land is inconsequential, where to us it's huge, because I know when our property was built, our pool was built right up to our lot line. So we have 0 room to put up any kind of a fence or to plant trees. So I think it's a kind of a win-win for both sides. So I did some pictures, and I've got them as handouts as well. The top picture is what it used to look like when we moved in. And we've consistently, this is something I've known the Gum Ranch was going to be developed. We've lived there over 20 years. We were always told that it was the top where you see the cows, that would be as close as the development would come to our property. But that's before the park district had the land. I think my initial conversations were with the water district. So I'm sorry. So the next picture is what it looks like, how close it is from our back fence, and we only have privacy because of outgrowths, volunteers that have sprouted up. There's two more. There's two more. And the next one is if you're on the walkway, that's how you see it's our neighbor's yard. And the very last one is Elliott Homes. Even everything they put up, they've given some protection, like, okay, good. Okay, and I've got handouts that have these, and also how I came up with the fair market value.
Carol, thank you. I want to mention to the board that Mike and I have met before with neighbors, and I suggested that Carol make a formal presentation. It's not on the agenda, we can't act on it, but so that they would lay it on the table what they were proposing. So I would hope that we can have staff look into this further. When the situation changed when we acquired the creek, which was going to be non-public space, it was going to be fenced off, it was going to be protected. Now it's actually parkland. We're talking about developing it, so it's something I think we ought to have staff consider.
Yeah, obviously this is much more presentation. It's not on the agenda, so we really don't want to try to agendize something that's not on here, but I think it would definitely be something. I mean, there's a lot here with she, and unfortunately, obviously 3 minutes is not enough time to really discuss and dive into all this, and there's a lot of questions that just this document alone provides. So I mean, I'd be open to have staff put something together on the agenda, on more robust information. Or agree with me?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Would you like it on the April agenda or?
If you think you can have it by the April, that's fine, but if you think you need more time, I'm okay to postpone it to May.
We'll push for the April, and we find that the April.
Great.
One other thing I would add, we have precedent when we sold the driveway to the Presbyterian Church for $50,000, and when we sold property on it. It's not unprecedented.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Wonderful. Is there any other person that wishes to address the board, online or in person? Okay, great. I will close public comment and we'll move on to approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. Agenda is passed. Move on to the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar? So moved. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Is there any fellow or any further discussion regarding the consent calendar? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Consent calendar is approved. On to agenda items. We will start with monthly Fair Oaks Youth Advisory Board report. Rachel, good evening.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Lee, the chair of the Fair Oaks Youth Advisory Board. Just a quick update on FOIAB. As of right now, we are discussing fundraiser and outreach opportunities that will start taking place next term. We're also collecting gift cards for the adult egg hunt. You can stay tuned to find out the details either on the Parks and Rec website, or I highly encourage everyone to check out our Instagram at InstaFOIAB, no spaces. We post a lot of updates, and we will for sure have details on the adult egg hunt registration. We're also volunteering for the Easter extravaganza event as well as the kids art event as we wrap up our term in the next 2 months. And speaking of next term, we've also held officer nominations, and we've voted and selected the officers for the 2022 and 2023 term. Unfortunately, I will be leaving office as I'm graduating this year. However, I am looking forward to ending this term off strong and very grateful for the opportunity and can't wait to see what the next group of officers will bring. That's about it for today. Thank you. And are there any questions?
Great. Okay. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Wonderful. 9.2 discussion of possible action on financial support and sustainability strategy policy.
All right. Good evening, Board of Directors and Community of Fair Oaks. My name is Katie Costa. I'm the Recreation Superintendent for the Fair Oaks Recreation and Park District, and this is
Chelsea Adams, and I'm the Recreation Supervisor for the Fair Oaks Recreation and Park District.
So bear with us. This will be a little bit longer of a presentation than you're used to, but we will be swift with our execution. As you can see, we decided to title this the Financial Support and Sustainability Strategy rather than just cost recovery. And there's some reasoning behind that as we get through the process. Let me make sure this works. Oh, always too fast. Wait for it. Okay, so the process. the reasons why we got started with this, I'm sure Mike knows all too well, this is about 3 years in the making. We had first originally started the process trying an in-house method, and that was unsuccessful. It's a big thing to, it's a big undertaking, cost recovery for a district that has not yet set up a cost recovery process. So we decided that actually the perfect timing was, oddly enough, when COVID hit. Mike jumped right on that, and we reached out to 110% cost recovery. And it was just by luck that they were starting a cohort process. So when we originally looked at 110, they were rather expensive for a one-on-one solely for your district streamlined process that they came in and did over a period of 6 months to a year. It was rather expensive, like $25,000. So we're like, okay, that's a bit much. So that's why we tried the in-house method. Well, when they opened up this opportunity for the first cohort process, that was basically us with 5 other agencies in Northern California. So it was a discounted price because they could hit all of us at one time and use the benefits of us working together to figure out what's working for each of us. So we got it really cheap, but a great product, still all the same product from 110%. And they literally are the experts in this field, especially for parks and recreation and public agencies. The reason why is because as a district, we have up until this very moment made decisions based on 80–90% emotion and 10% actual data, because we have not had the tool to put the data together from indirect and direct costs and actually deep dive into what that looks like from each and every department that we have. So now we make decisions based on data balanced with emotion, so that we can pass the transparency test and be fiscally responsible for the money that we have. So that's why we did it. In the affordable process, I just want to let you know, it's actually been about $11,500 to do the whole process. And really the cohort was only about $5,500. And then it's $2,000 each time you work with their professional to do data collection, which Chelsea will speak on, is quite an intense process. It is all the data from staff time of every employee to every inch of parkland to all the bills that we have. All the data has been crammed into this really extensive Excel spreadsheet you do not want to look at. We're not showing you tonight, I promise. So we are currently have data collection for 2019, 2020, and she just is starting the data collection for 2021. So we will have 3 solid years of data behind us. We'll have 1 year of normal numbers and 2 years of COVID numbers. So we will always mark that in our data. So as we pass this off to future generations, they'll know that was the odd COVID years. So we'll move on to, and so what you're looking at is the process phases 1 through 5, which I will explain. So phase 1 is actually, you're looking at staff education and training. That is pulling the curtain back and talking about financial management, how we think about spending as a district versus how we should think about spending as a district, and having a sustainability philosophy so that we can look long-term for things like asset management, deferred maintenance programs, you name it. We're really looking at how do we set ourselves up for success in the future, and then how the revenues are generated currently versus how they can be generated in the future. So that was an entire process with the company to go over the staff education and training and really open everyone's eyes to the process of cost recovery. Again, this is just a synopsis of the process. So if I'm going too fast or you would like a more in-depth sit down with staff on how we did this, we'd be happy to do that as a workshop. Director Carr?
Question. Does this address recreation programs or rentals or all the operations?
It addresses every single thing we do, every single thing we
Every
do.
operation.
Every single thing we do. Everything you pay us to do is what it covers. So the next phase is actually service category development. So service categories, and I'll talk about beneficiaries of service, it's different. What you're used to seeing is what looks often like a triangle. And that cost recovery philosophy is really focused around, let's say baseball as an activity, where this is not. This is beneficiary of service based on a category that really, and I'll get into it. So these are our categories that we have as a district, and it breaks down into the purpose of the category, how it fits within our programs and events. But we have enrichment activities, food and beverage merchandise sales, which we don't do a whole lot of right now, but we will be doing in the future as we open up our arts and entertainment district. Non-monitored open access, which is being out in the parks, enjoying the parks, private, semi-private. So that takes that concept of baseball and says, okay, well, there's baseball for all. But then there's comp baseball and there's private lesson baseball. And that's why this breaks it down into more of a beneficiary service. So I'll get into that a little bit later. Beginner activities, intermediate, advanced competitive activities, rentals, as Ralph mentioned, or Director Carr mentioned, community events versus special events. So this is just a quick overview of our service categories of the district. And then you get into the cost of service analysis, which is the heavy lifting. I know Mike loves these images, but it really is the hardest part of this process. That was the data collection that we did. This is where we had the really tough conversations. I'm glad Sean's here. But you know, you look at 3 departments, that's the 3 pieces of our big pie, is admin, parks, and recreation. And when you ask another department, how much time do your part-timers and your full-timers really spend cleaning the preschool? Our first inclination is to give you the ideal of what we really wish we had if we had the right staff and the right amount of time and all the training. So we started there and broke it down to the reality of how much time is actually being spent on each program, each event, admin stuff like budget development, board meetings. It's broken down so in the weeds that I think you guys would probably not enjoy going through that whole process, but we did. And it's one-on-one work sessions with someone there named Eric, who's been great. And so we worked through the cost of service analysis and did all the data collection, and then I'm going to show you kind of where we end up. The beneficiary of service. So this is our continuum as a park district. And I know you have it in the board report as well. Some of that is hard to read even from here, but it bases on the lower end of the continuum at the bottom as the cost recovery is the most that we subsidize. So we're changing our language from loss to subsidy. So we no longer look at what we're doing as a loss. We choose to subsidize some things more than other, and there's a reason behind that. It has more greater good benefit for a larger group versus focused activities like private lessons or competitive activities. So you'll see we start at the non-monitored open access, that's a 0 to 5% cost recovery. And as it grows from the common good to a more individualized focus, you get all the way up to 105% plus. And that's food, beverage, merchandise sales, because I don't think the public would really enjoy if we were subsidizing someone's food choices at a concert. That really needs to be full cost recovery. So you set yourself up for that. So this is our focus in the policy that was before you in the board report. This is our guiding document that we'll use to check ourselves. And I'll show you what it looks like within the data collection so you can see how it all pans out. So I'm giving you so much over 3 years. This will make sense once I show you the data. Do you have a question, Director Carr? Sure.
Collecting data is as good as time management and the data that was collected in the past. Have we done enough of that? You were able to find that data?
We've done back to 2019. Anything before that would be registration software we no longer have access
So
to.
you were able to determine how much time?
Oh, yes, yeah. I mean, it's down to the exact, yes, we spent exactly 10 hours, but when you look at your whole pie for each employee, you're breaking that pie down, and you'll see Chelsea's pie in a minute. And then you see how many hats we actually wear. It's a very colorful pie. So unveiling the cost of service. This is what I was just mentioning. You take that continuum, and this is actually how it pans out. And you won't see the beverage sales. We don't have that yet. So we took that off just to simplify what you're looking at. But there's our service category, and we've already done data collection for 2019 and 2020. So you'll see the percentages they came in at. And then you'll see the goal. So you'll see the areas in which we have room to grow. So those will be the areas we work on. Once we have our policy established, then we will start budget development using this tool and hopefully provide the board with goals to grow each year until we are within our cost recovery range, if that makes sense.
How did you determine your goals?
Well, we worked with 110% on some of the standard practice for goals. We looked at where we're at versus where we think we can be with the changes that we know are coming. It was a multitude of things. They were backspace and retyped and backspace and retyped probably 100 times. And this is where we landed based on a standard practice just in the industry alone and what works for Fair Oaks. And I know that's like a broad response to you, but there is a methodology in writing that we use to get to this data.
So how do you get any cost recovery on non-monitored open access?
Well,
That's just use of the parks and stuff?
That's a great question, Rick. Some of that comes with things that you can capture, like grants that you can write for park development, park advancement. Anything that can help the non-monitored open access continue to be safe, clean, and green for our community. So you can look at tools like that. There are some agencies that are very lucky and have stakeholder funding options that are in addition to their taxpayer dollars that we always have the option of looking at. And we certainly are welcoming it in case anyone's watching, but you know, those are some of the options that they list for how you can look at getting to that 5% for that non-monitored access. It's definitely a harder one to get to. I know that we'll be really good at saying it's zero, that's all we have to do. But we are going to look at creative funding opportunities for the non-monitored access.
So one other one, the community events. Looks like we had really good cost recovery in 2019 and probably the next year because of COVID. Why are the goals so low then?
Because the goals are actually the realistic goals. Some of the community events, I think, are when we had a really good, healthy year. But in reality, looking forward on events, the community events are more of the greater good, like serves all ages, and things of that nature versus special events that are more specialized, maybe for adults only, like a comedy show. That's more of a special event, not a community event, because everybody can't go to that.
So movies and concerts in the park and chicken festival all fall into that
In the
category.
community events, because everybody can come and attend.
So then are you saying that previously in 2019, we did, that community events, and special events were combined?
They were combined,
It was-
yes, they
okay,
were
so
absolutely combined, but still the data is still separated. So we still separated the data, so the data is still correct. When we did that, we never separated them, so don't combine them, that's still separate.
Well, then I guess I would just add on to Director Carhart, I don't feel like your answer helped me understand why we would still have it so low if we were at 44, unless you're telling me that 2019 was more of an anomaly of the year.
2019 was more of an anomaly of year for those specific community events. And prior to that, we didn't see that. And all we have is the data we could pull on our own. We had no information from our registration software whatsoever because it's gone, we switched.
And if I
Sure.
yeah, as we look forward into community events, we believe that arts and entertainment area will have a multitude of those. And we don't believe that they will be as heavily cost recoverable because of the nature of that piece. So I think that that's another cell phone. The other thing about community events is as you put a new one in, it takes a while for that to ramp up. And so it skews those numbers.
Got it.
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you. And as I had mentioned, a lot of our goals are based on what we know is coming in the future and not really on the past. So even though the 44.47% is based on the past, we're looking at the future and what we're doing with community events. So that's why special events are so much higher, because they are specialized to a certain age group or a certain population. Okay, so moving on, I think I'm gonna pass down to Chelsea and here's some fun information on pockets.
All right, so my involvement in the project I was the data diva, okay? So I had a lot of fun. I took all the data from the software, worked with Mario, worked with Eric, sat down with every single staff member we had on staff at the time, and we broke everything down. So this example is just showing you the service category. So the way I like to look at it is our service category is our large bucket, right? So our large bucket is enrichment activities. And in that large bucket are the smaller, well, bigger folders, right? The activities. So for the purpose of this presentation, I'm going to be looking at my area, which is Fair Oaks Preschool. So when we break down that folder, we look at the Fair Oaks Preschool folder, it's broken down into even smaller parts, right? The 3 classes that we serve. And on the far right column, you can see the cost recovery of each class by itself. So the 30.54%, it falls into the cost recovery, right?
That's really
It's
hard
30.
to see. Can you describe to the tellers?
I'm gonna move over here.
Maybe it's just
They're not
my
gonna
eyes.
see it. So yeah, so the Fair Oaks Preschool PM class,
Twisted about 10 degrees, we see a lot better over here.
Wow, it's much
Is
better.
that much better?
Yeah.
Okay, so the dark blue is the TM, the Thursday, Friday, I believe is the teal, and the pink is the AM class. So then we can break it down even more. We can look specifically, so then that can help me as I plan for the future to see where are my classes falling? Do I need to up enrollment? Do we, we don't want to, but do we need to look at fees? Do we need to look at staffing? Do we need to look at purchasing? All those fine details. And then if we break it down even further, we can look at a specific class. So this is the PM class by itself. How much revenue did it bring in? How much did it cost us? And then what was our overall cost recovery? Did it fall within our goal?
So in terms of a financial projection tool, if say our goal is to pick up 5 new clients,
Mhm.
we know it's gonna go up by X depending on what classes they go into.
100%.
Or if we lose, likewise, then we need to make that up.
Yep, 100%. I've actually really enjoyed this, I want to be honest. I've learned a lot about the district and it's really helped me grow. So as Katie was saying, we really looked into the finite details about staff utilization. Are we using our staff to their full potential? But not only, most importantly, are we using them to the most benefit to the district, right? So we know that each staff has 2,080 hours a year as a full-time employee. And so we sat down and we had those tough questions. Chelsea, how much time do you actually spend on the preschool in a year? How much extra projects do you have? And then I was like, well, I oversee independent contractors, right? But instead of throwing them all into one bucket, we're like, I spend X amount of time on this instructor each year to help get a better cost amount to their class. So when I pull their class at the end of the year, if Katie wants to know how much did this class cost the district, I can say, this is how much the class brought in. This is how much time I spent on the class. This is the end result. So here I am as a lovely pie chart. And each section of this pie chart, it's not down to the exact hour, but I should be able to provide you or anyone with a dollar amount that was spent on that program in that year. And for recreation, it's split on our job duties and our projects.
That's just for you.
That's just for me.
For you, how much, so if you add everybody else's pie chart up, then you've got the whole total program.
Yep. So this is just me. But for Sean, for his employees, they're gonna be split up on their time spent on events and on parks and facilities and things of that nature. But yes, we can, this is just looking at the very finite microscope, but we can go as broad or as detailed as we need to. So basically what we learned in this process, obviously staff utilization, we want to continue to use our staff to the best
Can we
benefit.
stop for just a second? So if Sean needs to come over and prune trees or repair fences at the daycare center, is that reflected in his budget or is that also accounted for as cost?
So that's a cost to the preschool.
But it's reflected in his budget.
Yeah, it is reflected in this budget.
It's reflected in his budget, but it's a direct cost to the preschool because he's benefiting the facility that the
Right.
program is held in.
And then a more detailed answer is his time is reflected in the admin budget, I think, because we're all full-time and then there's the preschool budget for part-time. I mean, it's all broken down by department, but
Sure.
then full-time employees are at an admin level for where we budget.
And I should have said that. So the admin staff and the board's time, because we also reflected your time, is all global costs to the district as a whole.
It's all what kind?
Global costs. So it, because you affect the district as a whole.
Versus being attached to a specific program event or event.
Well, having done this before with my work, my question is, how good the recording time is. Maybe in the past, we might not be as precise as we will be in the future to capture that. And then how do you capture the downtime? Not where it's really not attributed to anything. Does that just generally get washed over everything then?
Admin.
Yeah. Because there is a lot of downtime, I know, with things where it's not directly attributed.
No, that's all HR.
Well, and you,
It's government.
you bring up a good point, or like when they have their staff meetings, for example, that's a global use of time. And so there are a lot of times like that.
So we want to make sure we capture.
But that global is a subsidy that we absorb as a district. You
Right.
won't see every component of the district in a cost recovery.
Yeah, that's fine. I just want to make sure that those global things are not necessarily reflected in a charge to.
No, when they're global, they're not.
Okay, excellent.
We did attribute for the rec supervisor's time in our pie chart for staff meetings and admin tasks, staff oversight, things of that nature. Then we already, Katie touched on it, the subsidy levels, who's actually benefiting, right, from the service. We hope to use this as our future decision-making. So where we were, where we are, and where we hope to be, our roadmap. And then we hope that, you know, by seeing these, how everyone's attributed and the things that we have going on and the job tasks, how can we use this in the event that we need to ask for staff or, you know, grow our team and grow the district as a whole. So is there any questions?
One other question, the data gathering that you've done with the consultant, will you have to be hiring the consultant in the future to do subsequent years of data gathering?
That would be our choice. I would highly recommend that we do it because it really is a guided process that you need someone that does that for a living mixed with the people who do it on our end. It is $2,000 each time we do that. So we're finishing our third year of that, which is 2021. But I would say as long as we don't lose Chelsea, we can certainly do it in-house.
So how many times do we do it in each subsequent
I
year?
mean, after every calendar year.
Oh, just once a year, $2,000.
Yeah,
Bargain.
$2,000 to capture the year once it's finished. So it's not a lot of money for what
Well,
we're getting,
that's
so.
2 phone calls to our attorney.
Did we learn, or did you learn that we subsidize more or less than was perceived or noted?
I'd like to tell you that I thought that we weren't subsidizing a lot, but I mean, I think we were all under the impression we subsidize a lot. That even came out of our discussion between the difference between community events and special events and why community events are so low. And that was a great question that you had asked, because we had multiple discussions on, they look the same to the community, but to us, they're not, because you don't often charge a lot of ticket prices for community events. Like you can come out to Easter extravaganza for free, right? Versus the events you can really put a ticket on and upcharge for like comedy show, increased ticket sales and all that stuff. So I think, I don't know that we learned that we were subsidizing more than we thought. I think it was pretty on par for what we thought was coming. I actually think we learned that we are doing better at cost recovery than we thought. We thought we were going to be, I guess what you would say is in the red. We were afraid to click finish when it was gonna generate those percentages. And Mike and I talked about that a lot, because I was just afraid they were all gonna come out in the red. To see that we had some categories that were either right in that range or right behind it was really motivating for what we're doing. But the most important thing we learned from this process is you don't have to just jack up the prices to get to your cost recovery. It's like Director O'Farrell was saying, sometimes it's just looking at, adding the bodies in the seat or replacing missing bodies. There's more ways to reach your cost recovery goals than just increasing fees for your community.
There's efficiencies that can be done.
Exactly.
You can raise your goals as John said, or it gives you a tool to be defensible to the community too, when they say, why do you charge so much? And, the one thing that seems like it should be correlated with is our income. Some comes in from fees and rentals, but there is money that comes from property tax or from special districts that everybody expects to not have to pay again for that. I guess that's part of what subsidizes
that makes up the whole subsidy that shows in this chart, basically. Those taxpayer dollars is what we consider the subsidy that then goes back to them for not having to pay as much to reach a higher cost recovery goal.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's important to see what those percentages are to make sure that we match that, because people expect a certain level for free.
I would definitely say we are subsidizing more than we are charging exponentially.
Are there any other questions for staff?
One more question. How do our stakeholders go into this, the contributions they make?
Our stakeholders, you mean like community partner fees?
Yeah,
or-
community partners.
That's all part of the
If they do things like dress the fields and whatever they do.
Oh, we did not compute their non-pay in kind time. It's not a part of
Just
this.
curious.
But how it will benefit the partners, depending on perspective, as it does when we put fees together, for instance, community partner fees. I know that's a hot topic item, and it will be especially related to the village advancements once they're done. But it does create a transparency that allows us to start those conversations with the partners that may feel sometimes that we're arbitrary in our decision-making for those fees. There's actually data and facts that go behind it. And it makes the district more transparent to start those discussions, because I know we're going to be having those over the next 2 years. And so that'll be a really helpful process. It allows us to put the policy into practice. And what I mean by that is no more just picking a class that was cute. That's one reason to at least consider it, but there has to be more of a data-driven reasoning behind that. That's why so the next step is obviously policy approval tonight so that we can move forward as making this our foundation for our financial decision-making in the future. And then we will move to staff training, because right now the only 2 people that have had our hands really deep in this is Chelsea and myself. So now we have to go and train the staff on how to use it. I didn't mention, but I meant to, is that the reason 110% was a big sell for us is also their decision to integrate with SmartRec. So we had picked SmartRec, transferred into that registration software, and then boom, found out they integrated with SmartRec. So the platform for this that you saw with the charts and pie charts, that's all within 110% in SmartRec. So now we're not doing it over here and paying for another software, doing it and having to train on 2 different platforms. It's the same exact platform integrated, which was like one of the best reasons to do it alone. Because as Mike will tell you, his goal is to get us out of having 15 different pots of software and trying to get more efficient in using as few softwares as we can. You always been onboarding, you have to keep training people on that, passwords, all the things that go along with it. So we're trying to move away from that. But yeah, the next step is to use this for budget development. So this will help us decide, are there classes or programs, which COVID admittedly did help us as well, that really maybe need to be expired for logical reasons that are outlined in our cost recovery. And then programs that we need to have more offerings because they are selling out and we can put more bodies in the seat. How do we do that? Like Leprechaun trap making. And then the recommendation for 110% too is to look at those classes, and I know Mike's a fan of this. Don't make duplicates of the ones that are really coveted, because you will have a guaranteed sale and it will be something that people line up to get. Like preschool is an example. It's such a coveted program. We have a line around the office to get their number and get in for a slot because we have a wait list every time, as Director Tamani knows. So
I've been there.
yeah, it's quite a process. We have a great program. We have great programs and events all around. But if there are no other questions, I did want to just end by saying thank you. This has been such an eye-opening experience. This is a major resume builder for Chelsea and I, not that we're going anywhere. But also I will tell you, we're industry leaders, which I think we didn't really hit us till we got to conference last week. And Chelsea and I presented on this in an educational session with 110%.
Just one more question. On Pi Day, did you celebrate?
We should, but we will next time.
Beautiful.
2 questions. The training for all the staff. Everybody's going to get trained on how to do the data collection. And how
I would say all full-time staff will get trained. We're not yet, I don't think we justify why part-time staff would
and
need to.
we pay the contractor for that.
No, we do that.
Oh,
Chelsea
you
and
do
I
that in-house,
Mhm.
okay. And the other question, what were the other agencies they partnered with?
Yeah, and you know what, I put those in here, Napa Parks and Recreation, American Canyon, Redwood City, and Sunnyvale Recreation and Library Services.
It's a good company.
And so we were actually industry leaders outside of them in the cohort because we pushed forward and did our data collection faster and our policy process. And so, I mean, I'm just giving this kudos, like us as a district, that we've just moved right forward and kind of pushed ourselves out of the
Is that
cohort.
the city of Napa?
You know what, the information email said Napa Parks and Recreation, so I'm not sure, but I think it's got.
So this is a new line on everybody's duty statement that's full-time staff, right?
This comes out of other duties and sign and actually goes as cost
This will be
recovery.
part of standard operating procedure.
We will use this in budget development, which we started literally yesterday, so.
Okay.
So I'm before you tonight to ask that the board approve the, as I will say, and I just lost track of what it's called, the financial support and sustainability policy as outlined in attachment A and discussed in the slideshow this evening.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the presentation as well as the policy moving forward.
And I'd like to second that. I went into this thinking, oh, is this like our operations? Remember our.
I do. I do.
Our consultant study that went awry, and you've proven that this is not like that at all.
No, this was fun. Yeah, I mean, we really had a blast. Sometimes, yeah.
So I think it's valuable, help.
Wonderful. Well, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Nice up. Congratulations.
Good job.
Thank you. Really well done.
What are you gonna charge this meeting to?
Global.
Global. That's the word of the evening, global.
Well,
Wonderful. Let's move on to 8
to do overhead.
Yeah, let's move on to 8.3, discussion possible action regarding adoption through resolutions below 03-1622-02, 2022-03-1622-03, and 04.
Yes, so, yes, thank you. My name is Jennifer Larkin. I'm the Administrative Services Manager for the district. This item is the annual adoption of resolutions, which will allow us to work with SCI, which is our engineering firm that prepares the engineer reports for each of our assessment districts each year. And by adoption of these resolutions, you will allow them to take that first step. We'll get the draft reports in June for approval, and once those are approved, they'll set the rate for the levy for next year for 2022-23.
Great. Is there any questions, board?
Not for me.
Okay.
I would make the motion, except I'd have to read all of this, so. And that motion be made to adopt, we need discussion.
I'm happy to entertain a motion.
And Jennifer, do you need them all read out loud?
You can just adopt them at one time.
Okay. And I recommend, or I move that we adopt the 3 resolutions given in the staff recommendation. That's resolution 03-16-2022-02, 03, and 04.
There's a motion, is there a second? There's a second. All those in favor? Aye. Wonderful. Motion approved. And then we'll go on to 8.4. Discussion possible action regarding resolution number 03-622-05.
Yes, this one is another resolution for, this is for the general election that's coming up November 8th, 2022. In order for us to consolidate our election with the county's election, they need this attached resolution that is approved by all of you. There are 2 seats up for election. And I have, if you all would like it, I brought it with me, the calendar of all the different dates for this upcoming election, for anyone that's interested. And that's it.
Any questions for Sam? No? Okay. I will make the motion to approve resolution number 03-1622-05.
I'll second.
There's a motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Have an election.
No, that doesn't mean we'll have it.
Well,
It just means we're able to.
We're able, yes, yes.
Yeah, it's,
What's the cost this year of county cost? You know, Jennifer?
it's July 18th through August 12th.
Jennifer, have the county given us any indication as to the cost of an election this year?
They give us their fee schedule. I have not calculated it yet, but it's usually.
It's usually about 25.
Is it dependent on the number of candidates?
Well, if there are only 2 candidates for 2 seats, then there is no cost to us. So there's no administrative costs.
Wonderful. Moving right along. Discussion possible action of adoption resolution to execute surety bond.
Yes, this is, I'm asking for authority to sign a agreement with Alliant Company to have a surety bond issued to Sacramento County, issued on our behalf, that will be a performance surety for the work that we will be doing on the streets around Village Plaza Park. This is a requirement that the county has prior to the work commencing for that. And we also will have a surety bond for the contractor. But we, as the owner of the project, have to have one as well. And that's kind of it. Alliant is with the Special District Risk Management Authority, which is a joint authority, government joint authority, and it is under the Special Districts Association. So it's kind of a subgroup of that. And They are the ones that issue the surety bonds for.
I understand, and I think everybody else understands why we're doing this. The public also needs these reports. So a definition of a security bond, and it's just an agreed to perform and pay, just something simple like that.
Yeah, it's to complete the project. Basically, it's a deposit, if you will, that we will complete the project to the county specifications, and we won't leave it half done at the end of the day. If we do leave it half done, which we won't, that bond then is issued, and we are basically giving that to the county to finish. the
That was 2 more sentences in the staff report.
Bonding for this is surety bond, I guess, doesn't come free. We pay what, 10% of the construction cost for that?
Yeah, I don't have that figure. They haven't given it to me yet. So
But this is going to cost us money.
it will cost us money.
Yeah, it's
And
just another poke in the eye on the requirements for this project.
we were not expecting it. They were up, we weren't expecting it initially, but as we moved this project forward through the reviews and everything like that, then it became, we became aware
Now,
that that was gonna happen.
does that mean we're getting a bond on the entire project, what the county is paying for too?
That we're still working on. The county has not identified that issue on if that's gonna happen, but definitely on our part. And so we're still, the reason why we don't have all the details is because we have to get this agreement, authority to sign the agreement to the surety bond, so they align, so they will work with us on that. And we'll have a figure, a dollar figure, but at this point, I don't know what that's.
Okay, well, just another poke in the eye.
Well, it's something that has to be done.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? No, I'm not going to make a motion to approve resolution number 031622-06, delegating authority to the district administrator of Fair Oaks Recreation Parks District to execute the surety bond. I will second that. All those in favor? Great. Resolution passes. Items from board of directors, Secretary Manny.
During the staff report, can you give us an update on the list? And then the other note is that I will be not at the people meeting. I will be out of town without internet access. So I will be unable to.
Hopefully it's somewhere from Bermuda.
Death Valley.
But you're going in April.
I hope so. We'll see.
That's even better than,
It's probably gonna be 85.
Oh, nice. Okay. It's not see. I don't know. Okay.
just a point that everybody in the region is now suffering from high fees. And you've probably seen the reports about Sacramento County and Sacramento City are top 11 unaffordable cities in the United States to live in for lots of different reasons. One is because there's no housing. So the Building Industry Associates recently is meeting with each county supervisor and is pointing out what the delta is between the aggregate fees here to build a house or to do a project and what they might be in the Bay Area or San Joaquin County. We're roughly 40% higher. So if at your next directors, district administrators meeting, you want to get on board, and if anybody else is doing the construction like we are, and they want to, bitch a little bit, then it's time to do it.
It's Carl.
Well, I've been gone, so I haven't been able to cause trouble this month, but I was asked by Supervisor Desmond to join a committee that he's developed, unincorporated communities committee with representatives from each community. He needs advocacy from these unincorporated communities in order to get some clout with the other supervisors. This area is 90% unincorporated communities. All the other supervisors have one or two cities within their realm. They get a lot of federal and state money, especially for the cities. And there's more money that comes back to the county. And I'm not sure that I can say this, but it seems like they go after that money too, because there's nobody from the unincorporated communities to speak up. No councilmen, no mayors, no advocates, citizen advocates. So we're trying to develop a way that we can get a little more political clout in incorporated communities.
Good, good. Incorporate that, yeah.
Well, that's not on the table. I've suggested that over and over and over again, but no.
I do not have anything, so, staff.
Katie?
I just have one thing. The park district, the Concerts in the Park Committee is doing a pop-up concert. It will be on March 31st, pending weather. So if it's terrible rain, it will just be canceled. We won't be at a loss for any money, but we're gonna have one last concert in the park, like the good old days before we start construction. So it will be from 6 to 8 p.m. on March 31st, and it'll be Jack's Hammer, presented by Concerts in the Park, and we will be reaching out to community partner groups by Friday via email. We have 20 10x10 booth spaces. The point being, instead of having sponsors and all that stuff, we're going to offer an opportunity, which was Mike's idea, to provide space for partners to reach out to the community one more time before we start construction. They need members, to build up their membership base. If they are doing a fundraiser and they want to advertise it, so Rotary could have a booth. It's all free. And we just want to promote what a great community we are with all of our organizations that we have that do so many great things for the community and put on a concert. We're not getting a food truck. We want people to shop in the village. And so it'll just be a traditional concert.
So Thursday.
It is a Thursday.
There'll be food trucks though.
No food trucks. We want people to shop in the village.
I like the food.
There'll be no ice cream or anything. Promoting shopping in the village, getting your food in the village. What you bring in your bag is your own decision.
Yeah, Board of Directors, anyone can go, maybe on camera. Board of Directors, I'm Sean Ventura, Park and Facilities Manager. I don't have as good of news today, but I actually wasn't going to have anything to say today at all. But one of my employees, one of my most valuable and trusted employees, Matt Trevino, today has put in his 2 weeks notice. He was recently made to be a park supervisor. I've tried to get him to come out here to say goodbye because he's out by the 31st, but he could not make it tonight. So just wanted to say he's getting a great new opportunity at Steve Davis as a park supervisor. It's a great new chapter for him, a lot of new opportunities, and we're all going to miss him a heck of a lot over here.
Who is it?
Matthew Trevino.
You train the best.
Yeah, then everybody wants him. I don't know. I guess we should train him once.
This is it.
And so that one, I guess, is a little recruitment going on.
Thank you.
A couple of things here for me. I sent me a picture of the Strand Park sign, just so you know that that's up, and the public knows that's up. We're still waiting on the cobble, and as of this morning, we do not have a time frame when the cobble will arrive to come in. It's indicative of how long these things are taking. The sign, it took, what was that, 2 months for us to get that sign, and so somewhere right around there, but it is one of these things that I believe we're going to continue to be challenged with as we start these projects coming up. So just kind of a heads up that this isn't going away anytime quick, and we're going to continue to see these challenges with the materials and supplies that we have for our homes.
So are we doing real cobbles on it? And is the original contractor doing this work, or are we doing?
Yes, original contractors do this work, still under the project.
Real cobblestone or bone?
Should be real.
Yeah, should be real.
Nice.
Silly bar.
Yeah, we can take it. Or we go down and grab a rock. Yeah.
Do we have a date of breaking ground at this point?
It's looking like that April 23rd date is still holding up right now. And as of this time, you'll get more information as those bids come in. So
You gave me the schedule on that. What was the bid, length of the bid? Is it 45 days?
it's just under 45. That way it hits the board meeting time. We're only required by law to do 30. And then you asked about the La Vista. The staff has done their review of the agreement. San Juan Unified School District did the first draft of the agreement with their attorneys. They sent it to us. We reviewed it with staff. There's some major challenges with it. And so we sent those notifications back to San Juan last week, basically saying, hey, we have to deal with these items, and primarily it's the terms. They asked for, they said in their first draft, 25 years. I don't believe that that's acceptable, especially for a $7 to $5 million, $5 million to $7 million project. So I'm asking them for at least a 50-year option on that one. And then they probably in error have it down where they're going to do the maintenance and they're going to do the scheduling, and they have first priority for the fields. So that is obviously not acceptable. And so we sent back to them saying no. And I hope that that was just an error and that wasn't their intention.
Are they working at all with board members on this? Or is it strictly
It's-
administrative?
It's down to staff, and it'll go back to the board for approval. What will happen next, and I suspect I'll get another draft back in the contract for the agreement from San Juan. We'll review it one more time. If everything's good, then we will fire it over to the attorney for the legal pieces of it, making certain that the legal pieces are correct. We did not done that yet. It doesn't make sense when we're not even close to terms on it, paying money to the attorney to do that. So we'll get those terms right, then fire to the attorney, and then it'll come forward to you as a board. Timeline on it, I don't have a timeline. And that was kind of nice for us because we can't do anything until after we see these bids back from Village Plaza Park anyway, because our budget is all on hold because of the current economics or the current situation we have with inflation.
So the engineer's estimate on the village stuff was a little over 19 million. You said there was some optional things. How much do those amount to?
I don't have it. I can get it to you, but
Is it like marginal or is it another million?
oh, it's easily more than a million. For example, the road is an optional. The county portion of it, we're only paving up the center line. County's going to pick up the other half of the road, but we'll be using our contractor for that. County.
So that would be reimbursed.
Yeah, so it'll be reimbursed, but it is an add-on for the bid.
We gonna get a surety bond from the county? Want to make sure they finish the job.
Yeah. That's all I have.
Okay, wonderful. Anything else? Not. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to move.
So move second. All in favor?
Bye.
After your note, I expected we'd be going to.
Got a meeting.
Today, but-
Chelsea.
Thank you.